This is spEarz to the streets. spEarz to the streets. spEarz to the streets. spEarz to the streets. This is spEarz to the streets. This is spEarz to the streets. Get down to the beat, or get beat down in the street.
It's always a good night for a Philly street fight. On the 1706 edition of Raw, Stephanie Vaquer put the world title on the line against Raquel Rodriguez, who was just coming off the heels of some dissension in her Judgment Day faction after being eliminated by her own teammate and Rumble 2026 winner, Liv Morgan. I recently saw Raquel on the Holiday Live Tour in Bridgeport last month against Io Sky. That match right there let me know that WWE has bigger plans for Raquel than just a lackey position she has held down for the past couple of years. I can remember when Raquel rode into NXT on a chopper with gold around her waist and her own action figure in stores. With more matches like this fight, she could get back to that, as she was able to work for heat that rivaled and at points surpassed the obvious crowd favorite, as she did last month at that house show. Raquel's early on offense was inventive. The back elbows in the corner combined with cherry pickers are something I haven't seen before Raquel, and is a more interesting incorporation of showing body strength than, say, doing push-ups next to a fallen opponent just to stall for time. Her utilization of the weapons was entertaining. The chain spot she used to damage Vaquer's ankles was inventive, and she was the earliest to use the stairs and the tables as offense. The chairs noticeably gave Raquel trouble though, not mounting for long enough to get off a spot in between the turnbuckles and slamming back into Raquel's face while trying to throw them into the ring. But Raquel shrugged off these small arrows in an attempt to show her ring IQ. Still, she botched one of Vaquer's high-flying moments by throwing herself into the middle turnbuckle just to lay on the table late during the matchup. A laughable setup on Raquel's part, when she could have just mounted a fence on Vaquer until Vaquer could believably guide her on the table to sell the moment. Vaquer struck to the fence mostly through the bra, depending on her Devil's Kiss signature for pops. I don't know what the normies see in Vaquer that excites them when she does this move to this day, but it was laughable to see their excitement get cut short when Raquel lifted Vaquer on her shoulders and sent the champ neck first into the top rope. When Vaquer finally did deliver her signature, I did enjoy the twist of her hitting Raquel with it on top of the chairs and then transitioning the move to deliver it again on top of the steel steps. In a match filled with weapons, but where Vaquer still has to hold up the mask of being a face, this was an excellent way to make a familiar move out of Vaquer's warehouse fresh enough to be a photo finish and still utilize the weapons without resorting to the barbarism reserved for heels. Given a difference on the tape, Vaquer using ring awareness while her opponent was off her feet looked more believable than earlier in the match when Vaquer swung a Singapore stick at Raquel for dear life that just happened to bounce off the Teano. Vaquer stuck to staying on top of Raquel's shoulders to wear her down, using her legs in place of her arms for grips and holds. Raquel showed up more colorful than usual. Some red Wonder Woman boots, a black lace waist trainer, and some jeans. Not really Judgment Day colors. But to remove any questions of loyalty, Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez ran out late during the match to interfere, surprising the Philly crowd. Morgan grabbed the belt, perhaps foreshadowing this year's upcoming Mania. And if that's the case, I'm even more glad I'm not buying tickets. And Perez went through a table for her troubles, which for some reason the cameras didn't capture. Instead, they captured that goofy botch from Raquel, who when Vaquer landed on her only dented the table. And eventually the match wrapped with Vaquer still the champion of the WWE world. Clocking in around 20 minutes, the showdown had a healthy time but began to wear thin, which is why there was interference. I do enjoy the premise of two Latinas going at it in the squared circle for some gold, and the idea of Vaquer handing over the belt to a lady willing to show some more skin, but it was apparent before the bell that the belt was not going to be changing hands in Philly for the night. It's disappointing that Raquel will be getting the big show treatment for the foreseeable future, but botches with chairs were bounding back in a wrestler's face, and obviously setting your own self up on a table instead of stalling for time to enhance the story show that Raquel still needs more seasoning before she's ready to have a big belt run. For now, on the road to WrestleMania, This match confirmed that Liv will be lifting the title off of Vakir. And who knows, maybe Perez can betray the Judgment Day and pick up where Vakir left off for the illegitimate LWO when Vakir eventually falls. Perhaps a couple clicks away from the Rockies. It's just not on this night in Philly, where at the end of the street fight, Vakir is standing as tall as the Rocky.
This is Spears to the streets. Spears to the streets. Spears to the streets. Spears to the streets. To the streets. This to the streets. To the streets. To the streets. Spears to the. This is Spears to the streets. Get down to the beat, or get beat down in the street.